Tim Rainey, it was an unbelievable race at Interlagos in Brazil.
Great race.
The Brazilian Grand Prix always brings it, but between the amazing sprint race that we got, and I know you already covered this on yesterday's podcast.
Yeah, we still talk about it a bit more if you want to, Adam. It's all good.
And then qualifying, which even my mother-in-law called me. She's like, "Did you see qualifying?" And I was like, "I hadn't seen it yet because I watched it on replay. I watched the sprint race live." And she's like, "It's spicy. It's real spicy."
It was.
And I'm like, damn, she was right. And then, of course, today, that was a great end of season Formula One race, Tim.
End of season. Well, that's what, in the past, yes, that would have been a great end of season Grand Prix.
We're in the last 10% of the season, right? So that's why I call it end of season. It is. Yes. And, sometimes, at this point of the year, the championships are all wrapped up. You don't know. There is still a really good race happening here in terms of points being made. There was a absolutely heroic effort by Max Verstappen and Red Bull that I want to talk about. But let's talk about Lando Norris, because he stepped into this car at the beginning of this weekend. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure how the McLaren was going to perform in terms of, every time I say this, it's so interesting in the comment section. People will be like, well, they have the best car. And that's true. But, and that might not be true for that much longer. I don't know that I think the other teams are catching them. But Tim, the thing they get hung up on is it's the best car. That doesn't mean, even if you have the best car, that doesn't mean it will be the best car at every track. These are not it's not like mid 2010s where there was no cost cap and Mercedes and Ferrari were outspending everybody and they were good at everything. Yeah. It's not like that anymore. So you have to get used to the fact that even the best cars are going to struggle at certain tracks, like the way Red Bull and Max always seem to struggle in Singapore, even when they were at their best. And so I look at today's race and I look at yesterday's sprint and the qualifying, and I'm looking at Lando Norris in a way that I don't think you or I or anybody has ever really looked at him. Confident, self-assured, does not get too high, does not get too low. Even in his post-race comments, Tim, you feel like, oh, this guy's just locked. Mm-hmm. He's not getting too high about winning. He's just locked right in. Mm-hmm. What do you attribute Lando's race to today? Is it as a driver, which you are, what was it that stood out to you?
I think mentally it's the consistency, and a big part of limiting the amount of mistakes he would used to make within a weekend, and mistakes that would then snowball into more mistakes. I would say that he's done a really good job of getting the mental game under control, and that is something that he has been working on. I think in the past, and especially this season, I think he did read the headlines, too much, and got maybe a little too involved in some of the, the media headlines and the negative narrative around it, and maybe got sucked into that a little bit, and then found his own way out of it and really put the time into himself. And, for a driver, it's really important for some to do that. Some drivers need to do that. I needed to do that. Just make sure you're putting the mental work and the positive mindset into place, because when you show up to perform, you need to activate the performance.
Absolutely.
And if you're in a good headspace to do that, if you're relaxed and you have a positive mindset heading into things, then that's when the performances start to flow and you get into that rhythm. And I think for Lando, it's man, he's found something and he's been really switched on lately. And I would say that he is rounding into form at the right time. He is starting to come into being a championship caliber driver at that right moment.
Yeah. You need to do it. You need to keep it going all year, but obviously you really need to hit your peak right about now.
Well, we see with other sports too, though, right, Adam? Where it's kind of that they're team sports in particular. That hey, there's a good team here. There's the bones of a good team here. But then, once they get into the playoffs, things just start to evolve, and the game keeps going up, and their game goes with it, and sometimes their game goes above it, right? And we've seen it before in other sports. We're seeing it now with another athlete. And I think for Lando, now coming into this weekend with just a 1-point lead, leaving it with a 24-point lead says something about what he has done this weekend, and the amount of work that he's put in is starting to show up. And I had said that in previous podcasts as well, is that amount of work that he's put in is starting to pay off, right? So
no question.
And I think for Adam, for Lando, like it was just a commanding victory, commanding. And I think a part of him as well feels, and we talk about Max in a minute, but I think a part of him,
will. I promise you we will.
I think a part of him feels that today in particular, that I think part of him felt like he wasn't the fastest driver out there. And he even said it in the post-race press conference. And I think for him, that's going to drive him to be even better for the next 3 races that we have left, so he can seal this thing up and come away with his first championship.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear him say that, because that means that there's more to give, which is good for McLaren. Bad for Oscar Piastri. It's hard to overstate how disastrous the last 6 races have gone.
Yeah.
This is a guy that if you had asked, probably Tim, if I'd asked you, if you'd asked me, if you'd asked most people in the sport, everybody this summer was going to say, I think Piastri's going to win. The guy's been ice in his veins, never gets rattled. But it seems like somewhere around the Baku race, where he crashed out there, if I remember that correctly.
He did.
And then he crashes in the sprint race this weekend. He's had a really
crashed
bad
in the
run.
Sprint race in the USGP.
And you're just bleeding points at that point, right? Like the sprint race, obviously you're going for the win. But if you're in the championship hunt, you finish top 3, top 4 in that, you're just collecting points, right? You're just padding your stats. And I feel like, I don't know what it is with him right now. I hope this is a good learning experience. But as we always talk about, and we talked about this with Lando this summer when he was struggling against Piastri, this chance might only come around one time. And you need to be locked in to get it. And Lando getting this, if he in fact does, will be one of the more, I think when we look back on this season in terms of teammate battles, one of the more, I don't want to use the same term again, heroic is maybe not the term, one of the more surprising turnarounds that we've seen in the back third of an F1 season. Like, I can't remember 2 teammates being like this and one teammate being that much further ahead and then absolutely falling apart, maybe since Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel. And even then, it wasn't like Mark Webber fell apart, right? It was just Sebastian just kind of edged him out.
Yeah, just turned it on.
But this has been Piastri sort of falling apart, Tim.
Yeah, I would agree. It's been horrible. I mean, like you had said, Adam, just to revisit the things in Baku, poor qualifying, and then obviously had his shunt on the opening lap, and he's been rattled ever since, I would say, especially when it comes to qualifying, because the qualifying performances have been pretty bad lately.
They have been bad, man.
In this race in particular was not good for him at all. I think if we look at, for Oscar in particular, obviously, the weekend as a whole, coming in on Friday, I'd said this on our preview podcast where I said it on SportsCenter, I'll say it again here, where it has to be a good weekend for Piastri. He has to just get through it with some positives. He has to come away with some confidence. He has to find his confidence in this car again for him to have a chance, at fighting for this title in the last 3 races, because what had happened in Mexico, hearing from him after that race, he was spooked. Like, he just didn't have that confident air around him.
Yep.
The sliding of the car, just something was a bit too much for him in Mexico, just some things he needed to understand. And he had to go back to the McLaren, in Woking, and speak with the engineers, work in the simulator, put the work in to understand what has gone wrong. How can he make things better? And he shows up on the Friday in Brazil, and I felt that he looked really good. I'm like, okay, this is a good start to the weekend. Free practice 1 went well. I thought the sprint quali was a good job.
Yep.
And then on Saturday in the sprint itself, just an absolute mess. Like,
is
obviously,
that a mistake? Do you label him with that? Is that his fault?
Of course. I mean, every other driver who went through that section, even though Lando kicked up some water, every other driver was able to kind of get through it except for Nico Hülkenberg and Franco Colapinto. I mean, Max even had a huge moment going through there, but he recovered it. Like, he saved the car, right? And so Oscar not only, getting into the water that Lando had kicked up, but also putting the front left on top of the friggin' curbing, man. Like, you know you can't do that. I mean, and again, he's pushing, and I understand, and there are fine limits to all of this. It just wasn't good enough, Adam. Like, I hate to, I hate to talk negatively about drivers, and I hate to really get on drivers because I know how hard it is, right? Like, I get it. But at the same time, I mean, it has to be better. And you're fighting for a world championship, coughed up, I don't know how many points he's coughed up now.
Well, he's down 24 now to Lando.
What was it? It was over 40 at one point.
Yeah, it's 390 to 366 right now.
I mean, it's like 60 points he's given up.
Yeah.
More, probably. I'm just bad with the math, so I'm sure someone will correct us in the comments, but it's a lot of points, man, that he's given up.
The differential now is an entire race win with Lando not scoring a point. That's the only way that Oscar jumps ahead after the next race.
Think of where he was after Zandvoort.
Exactly. Exactly. And the other number that you always have to look at is just podiums, just straight up podiums. Lando's got 17, Oscar's got 14. That is the difference.
Yeah.
And you got it. I mean, as much as that's like sort of it's sort of an out there stat that doesn't tell you the whole story. It is sort of a Formula One season is a marathon. It's a grind, and it's those little numbers that kind of end up mattering in the end. And I don't know what you do if you're Oscar at this point. You've got to keep fighting. You've got to show some fight in these last 3 races, because if you go into the off season without having won at least one more race, or at least come second place and put on like a Titanic thing, imagine what people are going to talk about all winter long.
Man, imagine taking that with you into the off season. That would be brutal.
You can't go on vacation at that point.
No, not at all. You're back
every
at work.
day. You'd be obsessed with it.
Yeah, you're back at work every day.
Every day.
Every day you're back in the sim. You're working with engineers. You're trying to make all of these weaknesses your strengths. And I think that's a big part of it too, Adam. It's for Oscar understanding where has it gone wrong for him with the car, because the car hasn't changed.
Right.
Nothing has changed with what McLaren has done with this car. It's the exact same car that, for the most part. Yeah. But they both get the same equipment at Zandvoort than it is right here. And it's like, what has changed for him? Right. And it all comes down to, the psychological game.
No question.
You need to have your confidence. It's very important as a driver. And I think for Oscar, if he can't rebound competitively for Vegas, it's over.
Yeah, and I look at Max, like he is 49 points behind Lando. So again, very, very tough for Max at this point to grab him. We'll talk about Max's race in a second.
Max can still grab second, like P2.
That's
Max
what I was going to say.
He's coming for it, man. Like, here's the thing, Adam. I think we should talk about the incident between Piastri, Antonelli, and Charles Leclerc, because that also again
wrecked Charles's race.
Wrecked Charles's race for sure. Almost wrecked Antonelli's. Wrecked his own. But at the same time, it's like Let's just break that down for a second. Okay,
yeah, so let's do it. We're talking about it.
So Antonelli gets a bad restart.
Yeah.
Lap 6. And essentially what happened with Antonelli was the fact that he had got on some damp patches on the track, which caused a lot of wheel spin for him. And that allowed both Leclerc and Piastri to obviously get a good restart and get on his ass. And so there are gaps that are starting to form at this point. If you see gaps, your driver, you go for them.
Yep.
That's the whole part of the thing here, right? We're racing now. So I don't have an issue with Piastri trying to make a move on Kimi Antonelli. And I don't have an issue with Charles Leclerc doing what he was doing either. I mean, like, both of those drivers, I would do the same thing. I would even do the same thing with Kimi Antonelli's doing, just making things a little tighter. Like, I think Antonelli knew that he had a little more room on the right-hand side. Could he have given Oscar a bit more racing room? I think yes, for sure. That was a racing incident. Way too harsh to give him a 10-second penalty. That I don't agree with that. And the issues are, Adam, and we boil this down a little bit further, it's the driving standard guidelines, which is something that's been put together by the FIA and the drivers. It's something they've agreed upon to have full transparency over why someone gets a penalty. And in there, it does say that your front axle, and I talked about this on SportsCenter, your front axle has to be alongside your competitor's mirror. Mm-hmm. If you're doing 300 kilometers an hour, heading down into a turn, trying to pull off a pass down the inside while you're braking, downshifting, focused on the apex, trying to give your competitor enough room, how the hell are you supposed to know that your front axle is beside the mirror on your competitor's car? There's no way. That's an impossible ask for someone to pull off. But the drivers have agreed to this stuff, Adam. Like, this isn't like the FIA has done something bad. These parties have worked together to come up with this stuff. And so I think in the off season, that definitely needs to be looked at. And I think the drivers and the FIA need to get together and they need to have a chat about it and see what else they may be able to come up with, because I don't feel that it works, because we saw here that, in my opinion, was a racing incident. And
that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah. And I think that's across the board. I honestly think that every other driver sees it the same way. I also think that a lot of the other fans see it the same way. And I think a lot of the other teams see it the same way. So I think, Adam, when we look at that incident scenario, like, it is a racing incident. However, if you're Oscar Piastri, why are you putting yourself in that position? Look, I get it. You need to make up some spots. Then why don't you try and get it in an easy DRS pass going down to turn 4?
Make it clean.
Make it clean. Like, exactly. And so I think it was about 3 weeks ago, Adam, you and I were sort of discussing, when this championship gets tight, and it did, and it has tightened up, and you're Oscar Piastri, you have to start picking and choosing where you're going to make your battles. And this is one of those that it was, Kimi Antonelli's got really nothing to lose.
No, he's just racing to race. Yeah, for fun.
He's racing for either the victory, or he's racing for his first ever second place finish in a Grand Prix. And he's going to do whatever the hell he's got to do to hold on to it. And so if he's got to clear some space out, he's got to take some space away, right? So when I think about, Piastri putting himself in that position, I mean, like, what are we doing?
Well, Tim, I look at this. I look at it like this. Like, when you talk about the penalty, I'm with you. I think it's a race incident. It's unfortunate that Leclerc was knocked out. Could have just as easily been Antonelli, right? Like
I don't know how it wasn't. Wow, he got airborne. It's crazy.
I think what killed Oscar on that one was that he locked up. And then when you lock up, it tells the FIA that you don't have control of your car. And so, as you said, why put your car there? And this is not the first time that we've seen Oscar put himself in a dive bomb position on the inside of a corner, right? It happened a few races ago, and then had a lockup. And listen, that is going to happen in Formula One. I understand that. But this race was too young for that to be the case. And his car, as we saw with Lando, was in too good a shape. The setup was too good for him not to take advantage of a longer race. I understand if you got a slower car, if you've got an Alpine, like Gasly had a good weekend in qualifying and stuff like that, right? You got an Alpine, yeah, you probably want to try to make that move so you can get the guys behind you or pull what Alex Albon does whenever he's in the top 10 and just play hardcore defense the entire time because you know you don't have the car to pass people. Oscar does. Patience. And that's where I'm wondering who's in his ear. Obviously there's pressure, but who's in your ear going, you better lock this up now, Oscar. Like, you got to calm down. And it's so weird because he's such a calm guy.
Yeah.
But your outward demeanor is not always what's going on up here.
Yeah, totally.
So,
and it's tough to watch because like he's a very cool, calm, collected driver, and to see this swing happen has been it's been a little shocking, man. Like I did not expect this. I did not expect to see this from Oscar. And I think just to put a bow on all of it is that going to Vegas is going to be a difficult race weekend for McLaren. At least that's what they feel. However, you can, if you're Oscar Piastri, you can limit the damage, right? Like you can stop this bleeding, you maybe not get full points, but if you can, have to try and make sure you're taking some away from Norris. Like has to be just, you don't need to do doesn't need to be a home run. You don't need to swing for the fences. You're going to have 2 more races after Vegas to get something done on tracks that are probably going to make you feel a little bit more comfortable about the car. So just stop the bleeding, right? And come away with something you can feel good about so that you can take that into Qatar. And I think that is going to be so important for Piastri moving on. I just can't believe that it's tough to watch. I mean, I think like I am not a fan of these guys, but I respect and I appreciate the amount of work and talent that these drivers have. And it's tough to watch when they start to go backwards in situations like this.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Now let's talk about Max Verstappen, Tim, because this guy is just inevitable. He just keeps coming. And even though, like we said, he's 49 points out of first place, really tough to make up that ground, although never count him out. Second place is fully up for grabs. And Max started like dead last or close to.
He started from pit lane. He was essentially dead last. Like,
quality, he
doesn't get any further back than that. Dead last. It goes pit lane, and that is it. There's no one else.
Qualifies 17th, and they're like, you know what? This power unit's toast. Let's change it. And boy, did that car come to life. And it was interesting. You know, I looked at my wife midway through the race because they had Laurent Mekies. Then they were talking to him and on the Sky Sports broadcast. And his demeanor, his calmness, his intelligence, his empathy for the driving and the team and whatever. And he also took responsibility for a Yuki Tsunoda screw up earlier as well. I was just so impressed by the guy. Like he's instantly made Red Bull a very likable team again.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I said to my wife, I was like, Nat, like, it feels like it was several years ago that Christian Horner left. It was only several races ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's crazy the change in that team. Let's talk about Max's race. Obviously, this guy's the best driver in the world. We know that. But like, what else can we say about Max Verstappen that we haven't said? You know, it's more than just the power unit coming alive. That setup was trash. And they were in Parc Fermé. They couldn't change anything. How did he do it?
So essentially, Adam, what they ended up having to do is take the car out of Parc Fermé, right? And that's essentially with the power unit, all the new power unit elements that they added. So new internal combustion engine, new MGUK, new MGUH, new energy management storage systems, new exhaust, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And plus, they actually added an older revised floor to the car. So the floor that they had originally on this car, they peeled it off and they strapped an older one to the bottom of it. And so when Max went out on his reconnaissance laps, essentially, before they did laps to the grid, he felt the difference right away. like immediately could feel the difference in the car from what it was like Friday, Saturday to Sunday when they had made all of the changes that they needed to make, strap the older part to the car plus the new power unit. He said it was like a totally different car. He could just feel it immediately. And that essentially, Adam's kind of where obviously Red Bull had gone wrong with the setup in the weekend and all that kind of stuff. It's a very tricky car to get it into the right operating window for Max to really extract the performance out of it. And so, the team was pretty apologetic about it over the radio. And I think the thing for Verstappen was the fact that at least they tried, right? Yep. They had tried, and the team did their best, and the team gave him their best, and he gave them their best. And it was a nice radio message from GP to Max and Max to GP at the end of the Grand Prix. If people want to go back, pull up his onboard camera, have a listen. It actually was quite a nice message. But in the race itself, Adam, getting the puncture. So he got a puncture, and then he had to come get off the hard tire to get back onto the medium tire, which really then he felt brought the car to life, that medium compound. And obviously having to do another stop to strap on another set of mediums. The good thing with that is that Max had fresh medium tires for every stint, plus that fresh soft tire as well. So they had saved enough that they could use it in the race as a weapon. And Max basically, he drove his ass off. Like that was an incredible drive like he had in Brazil last season. And I'm trying to get something confirmed at the moment. But what I've heard is that the final medium tire that he was on before he came in for the softs had a slow leak in it. And I'm trying to get that confirmed. And maybe that is why they had pitted Max for the softs. Mm-hmm. Either way, it was going to be difficult for him to finish, in the lead. Even if they didn't pit him, like Lando was still too quick at that moment. But hearing from Norris afterwards, he had said that if Max had qualified higher, then Verstappen would have probably won this race because he felt that Max was faster than him. Yeah. And essentially, if you're Max and you're having to sit there and listen to that, which he did, it's got to be hard to hear, right? So you're really trying to fight for this driver's title now. And I think, Adam, for Max, I think he's satisfied with the effort. I think one of the things that it was interesting, on the Viaplay broadcast, the one that Nelson works for, they'd done an interview with Max after the race. He talked about Barcelona, and it's something you and I talked about, was that race in Barcelona where it's like, if something were to come back and bite him in the ass, it was going to be that. And he talked about it a little bit, saying that essentially, that was so much heat in the moment for him because for him, it's important to give 100%. Like he always has to give 100% or else he's pissed with himself. And if it's 80%, he's going to be extremely pissed off with himself. And so in that moment, I think he felt that it was 80%, and everything that was going on around him, the stuff down into turn one with George, and then the two of them colliding later on, while Max driving into the side of him, Max getting the penalty, etc. I think he learned a lot from that weekend. I think he learned a lot about himself from Barcelona, and he kind of made it sound like, won't do anything like that again because it did really affect his championship. And if this thing goes down to the wire, I mean, you and I are going to revisit Barcelona for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. It's who knew when we watched it? Who knew it would be that much of a fact? You never know in the moment.
I think, Adam, you did. I think if I remember correctly, it was one of us. It was either me or it was either you when we did like a post Spanish Grand Prix breakdown. One of us even said, like, look, if this thing gets tight, like that could really bite him in the ass for this championship.
Well, we'll see what happens going forward. Now, Tim, I wanted to lead with this, but I know I can't because it wasn't the biggest story.
Oh,
Ferrari.
Oh,
Tim Ferrari.
Don't do me like this, Adam.
Tim.
Oh God.
What is happening now? Charles was doing fine. Then he was knocked out of the race. Lewis is, let's just say it. Can we say disaster season?
Oh, yeah. It's bad. I mean, what did he say? He said there were some quotes. He had said it was a nightmare season for himself.
It is a nightmare season.
Yeah. It's not good. I mean,
it's not good.
It's funny when we were in Mexico, he really had this, well, I would say also Austin as well. And like, these are tracks that he's not bad at. Like, Austin, Mexico, Brazil. I mean, especially Brazil, right? He's always been good in Brazil. These are tracks that Lewis has been really competitive at in the past. And it looked like he was starting to get a lot more comfortable with the car. He looked better in the car. It looked more alive. And then, getting to Brazil, and it just, in qualifying, as soon as Q1 started for him, it was like the car went in an opposite direction. Like, I don't know if he decided to try a different type of setup with the car, and it just didn't work at all. And that was a mistake. And he had to leave it in Parc Fermé because of where he qualified. That's a tough spot to really be like, let's take it out of Parc Fermé and start, P20 or from pit lane. It's like that. You can't do that. You're fighting for a Constructors' Championship. You're fighting for second in the Constructors' Championship. So you can't just, cough away all those positions and then fight your way back through the field to try and score some points. Like it was it was a nightmare race for him. I mean, he got lucky when that front wing went underneath his car. I have seen other racing incidents where the front wing of a car went underneath your race car. Like, and it's one of the most scariest things you can ever have happen to you as a driver, because as soon as that happens, Adam, you basically lose all control of the front end of the car. And there was nothing you can do about it. So if there was a wall that was right there when that front wing went under, it would have been a very big incident. So I think he got extremely lucky on that front, and it's good. However, obviously, the damage coming in so early, take the pit stop, take the new front wing, the tires not working, and then just spiral on down until they're like, just call it a day, like retire the car. Like, right. I mean, that's a tough weekend for Ferrari, like you had said, even for Leclerc.
Leclerc was bad luck, though.
Yeah.
Like what I'm annoyed by or scared by is that it seems like it's bad driving from Lewis, or lack of confidence with the car with Lewis. And Tim, it seems like Ferrari doesn't know which direction to take this. Like, I'm curious about how they manage the gap between these two next season. How do you justify it? You have to. Yes. You got to give it one more shot because this is a regulation change. Yes. Imagine it wasn't. That would be even worse.
Next year, I think, Adam, if things don't go well at Ferrari next season, I don't see Lewis there for sure. Like,
no,
he's
no
gone.
Chance.
Like, he's either going to retire or he'll just go to another team, because I think I haven't seen him. Like, I've seen him in moments like at Mercedes, 2022. 2024, like, where he's been really down. I'd never seen him like this, though. Like, it's almost like he seems like he's figuring something out. There's a positive direction. He's going in the right direction. Then all of a sudden there's a hard 90-degree turn and everything kind of goes out the window. And he's kind of like left searching, like, what the hell just happened? Like, why is the car like all of a sudden left this balance window that I was getting comfortable with? Big part of that has to do with the regulation. This being downforce, obviously being driven by the floor ride height levels. So you're moving the car out of a ride height level by a millimeter, and that's going to throw you out. Millimeter. Like, I've talked to engineers about this. Millimeters is determining how much the balance swings out of these cars when you make that adjustment to them.
Yeah.
It could be little things like that as well, right? And so this is a different DNA of a race car than what he's used to I don't think he particularly likes this regulation either. For next season, obviously moving to a new regulation, if the team is able to get him something that suits his style, then I believe we will be seeing Lewis Hamilton of old. It's the regulation that's coming up next that has me a little concerned as to what type of race cars are we going to be getting here, and who are the drivers that are going to be able to adapt to it, and who are the ones that aren't.
Yeah.
It's that's Formula One, man. Like that,
it's a good time to be a fan. It's a good time
for sure.
To be a fan.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And I think tough for Lewis Hamilton fans out there, man. They don't like seeing this, obviously, and I think it's not great for the sport either when Lewis is not up at the sharp end, fighting with all these other talented drivers as well. And I think some instances it is hard to watch and stuff like that, right? Like, I think we all know that the talent hasn't, left Lewis Hamilton, right? It hasn't just, grown legs and walked away from him.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Okay. All right. Now, Tim, I want to talk a little bit about our friend Gabriel Bortoleto before we get to Mercedes. And the reason I want to do that is because he had a disaster weekend at his home race, and I felt for him. And for anybody that didn't see, obviously he had the huge crash today, but the crash that he had on Saturday was a very bizarre one because it's a failure of the car, is it not? Or is it a failure of the driver? Did he hit a wet pad? Explain that one to me.
It looks like from different replays that I've watched, like he had the DRS still open when he was turning. And so obviously that amount of downforce that you've already lost from the car and the trajectory you're trying to put it into at such a quick moment during such high speeds with no rear downforce in the car, I mean, that's going to normally send you for a ride. And I'm just really happy that he's okay, because that was a massive crash. Like, right. He even got airborne.
Yeah.
After he made first contact with the wall heading towards the second impact, and the amount of lift that he got, like he's very lucky. This was a tough weekend for Gabriel Bortoleto at his home race. And then you see what Nico Hülkenberg did at him. And I think for, Gabby being such a competitor and competitive driver, you're going to see that, and it's you're at your home race. Like, you want to perform, you want to show everybody that you're just as quick as your teammate. The car is quick. You want to put on a good show for yourself. Your family's there. There's a lot of pressure on at the same time, and so you have something like this. You have a weekend like this that happens to you. Sometimes it can be really tough to bounce back from, especially when you're a rookie. Yeah. And I think for Bortoleto, he had an emotional moment in pit lane with his family. It's a really touching moment. Those of you can go back and find. You can find some replays of it. I think I saw some online somewhere. Wasn't on F1's site, but essentially if you go on Twitter or something, you'll find it. But it was actually like really, really touching to see that, and touching to see how happy he was for like the other rookies, like Ollie Behrman in particular, who
had a great day, by the way.
Yeah, who had a fantastic weekend for Oliver Behrman, finishing P6 in this race. It was a great drive from him. But to see Gabby come up and congratulate him and be really happy for him, that's good to see. It's nice to see. Tough weekend for him, though, Adam. I wouldn't put that blame on any driver in terms of how it ended for Bortoleto. Not really much Lance was doing there. He's trying to do his own race at the same time, right? It's not like he drove him into the wall. So, I mean, it's just a tough weekend for him all around.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just it's hard to see, right? Sometimes, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I wanted him. I wanted him to have a magical weekend.
Would have been cool. Like the car was there.
Have him finish 10th, grab a point. Get to wave to the fans. It's shitty, but you know what? There's always next year because he's going to be back.
Yeah, and just quick, shout out to the team, like the team for getting that car,
building that car as quickly as they did. Crazy,
man. That thing was toast. They literally built a brand new car.
They needed a new tub too, didn't they?
Yeah, the whole thing, chassis, the whole thing is new. Yeah. You basically, what you saw in that ball of carbon fiber, all of that basically picked up, moved to the dumpster, and put inside the dumpster. That's it. It's gone bye-bye now. Like, they literally built a brand new F1 car from scratch and almost had him out for Q1. And that's a span, I believe, of around 2 hours in between that sprint race and the start of quali.
Yeah.
And so very, very impressive job from Sauber. A lot of hard work there from everyone behind the scenes to get that car ready. Plus, they had to deal with damage from Hülkenberg's car as well at the same time. I mean, hats off to Jonathan Wheatley and Mattia Bonomo for really getting this team firing on all cylinders.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Mercedes very quickly here, Tim, because quietly another great weekend from George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. A 2 and a 4. These guys are really, really impressive. And it really does give them a little bit more spread. Coming into this weekend, I think there was some concern about how close Red Bull and Ferrari were with them. And now you've got, Mercedes with, over a 20-point lead on Red Bull for the team championship, and over almost a 30-point lead. No, that is over 30 points on Ferrari. That's huge. Mercedes is going to come in and sneak and grab second place here.
Yeah.
Ferrari might fall to fourth. They finished second last year and just barely missed out on first. That's a huge fall.
Question: I could have sworn that Red Bull Racing overtook Ferrari in the team standings, right? So I think
they're 4 points up on them.
Yeah, so it's McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull Racing, then Ferrari in fourth. Williams is way too far back. So still, I mean, for Mercedes, I think, from this weekend, Adam, it's going to be hard, I think, for anyone to catch them. However, I mean, damn, not bad points haul for Mercedes this weekend.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. I'm sure Toto's smiling somewhere. They made the right call with Kimi. I know he had a rough mid-season. Perfect.
I think
perfect race. The highest finish of his career. It looked great.
Yeah, this is interesting. I heard from Toto Wolff following this one, and I wrote down one of his quotes. He said, and this was about Kimi Antonelli and how he felt about his performance today. And he said, quote, "Maybe pressure is not as high as some of the European, I think he meant European tracks, European races. And then the execution was faultless at the end, and being able to fight off Max on a newer and softer tire, that was really strong and a testament to what's to come next." So that's what Toto Wolff had to say about all of this following this race. And you know what, Adam? I was really impressed with what Antonelli had done all weekend. P2 and mostly everything. Finishing this one strong with Verstappen, 4-time F1 world champion, breathing down your neck. There were points where I thought that Antonelli might make a mistake, and it was about 5 laps to go. And when Max was starting to really catch up, I was thinking hey, if I was Verstappen, I would start faking like I was going to dive bomb him into turn 2 and into turn 4. And I was like, I wonder if Max will try that to see if he can rattle him a bit. And then I also was thinking I hope he's making sure he's paying attention to the regen on the battery to make sure he has enough deployment so he can hold off Max when Max gets in the DRS. And he did both of those things. And then Verstappen started to do the old head fake by pulling out from behind on the straights and pretending like he was going to dive bomb, send one down, and see what Antonelli would have done. Was he going to brake later and lock up and understeer, and that would give Verstappen a chance? But he didn't make a mistake. He didn't do anything. He didn't even let whatever Max was doing behind him, didn't let it affect him. I thought it was a very cool, calm, collected drive from Antonelli, even though he did say at the end of it, like, he's like, that was like so much pressure. It was like the highest pressure I've faced. That's the best finish for him in F1. And yeah, I think if you're Toto Wolff, like, you're definitely happy with his trajectory since, I would say, after Zandvoort. If we go back to Canada and securing podium finish there, and that was when they had introduced the new suspension that kind of really threw Antonelli, like, threw his confidence out the window, and they ended up having to go backwards on that suspension and finally ended up giving him the older suspension so he could help get his confidence back. And what ended up happening was he started going faster, and so they just stuck with what was working from then on. And I think working with Bono a lot to really keep him calm and to help him focus a lot more has been a huge help for him as well. Really impressive performance from Kimi Antonelli on Sunday, Adam. And, I kind of agree with what Toto's saying. Look, if Antonelli can hold the confidence, like, there's definitely going to be more to come from him. And I'm excited to see what they can do in Vegas, because Mercedes could be a threat in Las Vegas for victory.
Well, especially with the cold weather when the sun goes down, right? Like, that's always the thing.
Yeah.
I want to do some quick shout outs here. Behrman, Lawson, and Hadjar, 6, 7, and 8. Really, really strong races. And I already mentioned Gasly having a really good qualifying. He finished 10th. Hulkenberg at 9. I want to quickly, before we get to questions here and wrap up, I wanted to talk to you about the Franco Colapinto extension with Alpine, because that really surprised a lot of people, myself included. I thought they were going to go with Yuki Tsunoda. I think that means that might spell the end of Yuki Tsunoda in Formula One, at least for next year. Maybe he might be a reserve driver somewhere. But barring a miracle, Tim, I think he's out. Colapinto, I'm really surprised they went with him. Why do you think they did?
I think two parts. One, he was able to start to keep up with Gasly towards the end of this season. He's been able to close the gap down. There has been mistakes. I mean, he did make some in Brazil for sure. There's no question about it. Sprint race. Obviously, that wasn't a great instance of all that, crashing the car in the race and things of that nature. However, I think also on top of not only closing the gap to Gasly, he's also bringing like some good sponsorship with him at the same time. And obviously that team needs it. And I think for Flavio, he's got sort of the best of both situations. He's got a driver that brings money, but he also at the same time, he has a driver that is capable and can get the job done. He just needs more experience. I thought Luke Smith made a good point. Luke Smith from The Athletic said that, most rookies start the season with testing, and that being such a big jumping off point for rookies to begin the season. Colapinto's never had that. And so next season he is going to have that. So I think that we can paint a better picture of Franco Colapinto, what he could become and what he is after we've seen him go through a round of testing next season and into a new regulation. We'll have a better idea if Franco's going to be sticking around in F1 or if he's not. Like, that's going to be a very big season for him.
Well, I'm looking forward to it all, and good for Franco. I'm glad they didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not a great car, and clearly there's talent there. As
for Yuki Tsunoda, that is still a decision that Red Bull Racing hasn't made, and that's on the Racing Bull seat. Because up front, Hadjar is going to Red Bull Racing. They just haven't announced anything yet. There's no way you can keep him in the Racing Bulls. You just can't. Yeah. You have to bring him up.
And with Lindblad doing so well in F2, I'd have a hard time believing they're going to keep him out of F1.
That's going to be the thing. Is Racing Bulls going to be Lawson, Tsunoda with Lindblad as a reserve for both teams? or is it? Sorry, this is a fuzzy for the mic.
Oh, that's fine.
I was just playing with it. Or is it going to be Lawson and Lindblad at Racing Bulls with maybe Sonoda as the reserve? We'll see. Obviously, this wasn't a great weekend for Yuki as well. I always say wherever that second car is usually kind of tells you where the Red Bull racing machine is in the pecking order.
Yep. We shall see with that one. Now, Tim, a couple quick questions. We've already partially answered both of these, but I still think it's important that we get to them. So with Michael Klink, with all the new parts that Red Bull put on Max's car, you almost could say it's like driving an entirely new car. Yes, some important components are still there, but is there like a feel that you have to get used to with new parts and get used to them during the race?
No, essentially, if the team has made an adjustment, which they have, and it's a big adjustment, you will feel it immediately. Like Max had said, he could feel it as he was leaving pit lane and going out onto the track. I think, as a driver, usually what makes a great driver is how you feel the changes quickly. And I'll give you an example. So when I was testing to try and get onto a Formula Ford team to start my open wheel racing career, it's not like you just show up, and if you have all these sponsors and you bring them with, you have to go and test. The team has to see if they do something to the car, can you notice it? And if you cannot notice it, then there's no chance you're going to be a professional racing driver, and there's no chance you're going to be racing in Formula Ford as just in a lower level category of racing, especially not when I was coming through, because teams had sponsorship. And so they weren't going to mess around with not having good talent. So I remember that they would put me in the car. I would go out, just get a feel for it, because it's an open wheel car. It was new, hard to understand. You're coming from like go-karts and stuff into something that was big, it was more powerful. And I would come in and they would take the front bonnet off the car and the rear engine cover. And back there is suspension settings, and they can play around with those things really quickly and really easily. And they would take all that stuff off. They put it back together, and they'd send you back out, and they'd let you go out for 5 laps. You'd come back in and they'd say, okay, what was different? And you'd have to explain to them, well, now the car does this, and now the car does that. Mm-hmm. They could take that bonnet off and not do a damn thing either, and send you back out, which they did. Yep. And they would say, okay, how was the car this time? Like they had made a change, like insinuating that they had made a change. And you'd be like, well, it still feels the same. Like, did you guys even do anything? And they'd be like, they take the thing off, do more. So back and forth. So that develops your feel. They get an understanding of how you can feel things, and you relay the feedback. And so if you're having a reference marker for your braking, if you're having, the sense of speed when you're going into the corner, if you have an understanding for when you're pulling shifting gears, like coming out of a corner, I'm pulling second gear earlier now, I'm going quicker, I've done something differently in that corner that is working, I got to do it again. And so that's where the consistency gets built. That's where you have the understanding, and that's where you get the feeling. And so when Max goes out onto the track, he's got his reference marker, he's got his turn, and he knows exactly where he's getting back to power, et cetera, he's going to feel the changes instantly. And so that's like how a driver really reacts to things fast.
Got it. Okay, now the next one, Ryan, who is at Sask F1 fan online, says, I'm a McLaren fan, and my favorite driver is Pisastri. His poor form is becoming really bad now. Should we be worried about how this could affect him going into next year? We kind of did touch on that, Tim, but we could expand. And also, I didn't think Pisastri should be penalized. It seemed like a racing incident to me. I don't think Ryan will get much disagreement from Tim and I on that part. But sure. Yeah, Tim, let's talk about the not so long break over the winter and what that can psychologically do to a driver if they finish poorly.
Yeah, it can weigh you down, and it can hang around throughout the off season, especially if you've given up something pretty big that you thought you had in the bag, and maybe you were in line for a victory and you then ended up losing or finishing third or just off the podium. Like, those things will definitely hang around. I mean, Adam, you've covered athletes long enough to know that if they have a bad end to a season, it's like take the Edmonton Oilers 2023 Stanley Cup when they came back to take Florida to 7 games, and then they lost in game 7 where it really did look like the Oilers were on for what. Like, think about those athletes and what they carried with them into that offseason, right? Like, that's the exact same thing. It's the same, I think, for not every athlete's the same, but I think those feelings hang around with every athlete who wants to be the best. And so I think for Oscar, if this thing goes the way that it looks like it's starting to, then it could be a really long, difficult offseason.
Yeah, and we're hoping that he at least regains a little bit of his form.
100%, yeah.
Okay, well, listen. Las Vegas Grand Prix. That would be Saturday, November 22nd.
And we're going to be there.
You are going to be there. And then it'll be November 23 and then November 30th and then December 7th. Tim, we will have 3 more races in 3 consecutive weeks starting in just over a week from now. And then it's going to be it for the 2025 Formula One season. I can't believe it. It's been a blast so far. We got 3 great races to go. When do you leave for Vegas?
So the Tuesday of race week, heading off to Vegas. You and I are going to do our podcast. We're still going to do the same thing. I'm going to do my best to try and get a quality podcast out. It's going to be very challenging.
Hard to do.
It'll be challenging for that one, for me to get one out, but I am going to do my best to make sure I try to get something out to our viewers and listeners who are awesome and tune in, watch, and they add all these great comments. And Adam, it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully get to see Gordon Ramsay at some time. Maybe get to interview him. We'll see.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, Tim, I hope that you and Gordon Ramsay have a great old time. Ask him if he wants to join us on the show. I'd love to talk to him about his car collection.
We didn't talk about the BC Lions.
Oh, yeah. Okay, very quickly. Tim had his heart broken this weekend, everybody.
Again.
Second weekend in a row.
I had someone like in my comments on social media just being like, go Sask. Like, just loving that the BC Lions lost. For those listening around the world who haven't tuned out right now, the CFL is the Canadian Football League. I really like the Canadian Football League. I like football, I like the NFL, et cetera, et cetera. But BC Lions is my team. My hat that I have up here, top right, that's the BC Lions logo. And essentially, they got, I honestly think, man, they got hosed. Okay, so final play, there's like 10 seconds, I think, or 11 seconds left in the game. BC's winning. Lions are winning. And the Riders, Trevor Harris throws one into the end zone. But it looks like the ball actually, if you look at pictures that are online, it looks like the ball actually does hit the ground. And the receiver is actually using the ground to help like hold the ball in to record it, to record the touchdown, and obviously give them the win. And that basically ended the game, which ended the Lions' playoff run. And now they're off to the Grey Cup, and the Lions are sent packing for the off season.
Yep.
But I don't know, man. More pictures I look at and replays I look at, dude. Like, that ball hit the ground. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't see it, but I heard about it. I read about it. And is that going to be one of those ones that sticks with you for years, Tim?
It's going to be like the Jays thing, man. It won't be one that sticks with me because here's why.
Okay.
I honestly think the Lions have built themselves a team that is for the future. Like, they have an incredible quarterback in Nathan Rourke. They have amazing wideouts as well. They have a great defense at the same time. I do think this team is going to get to and win a Grey Cup in the next 2 to 3 years for sure. Like, they're I think the team of the future in the CFL.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Well, listen, I hate to say it as a Leaf fan, but there's always next year, Tim. So we will be on the lookout for more shows, because we will probably do one next Monday. And get ready back into race week. But in the meantime, be following Tim Harani and myself, Adam Wild, on Twitter. And obviously, subscribe to the channel, too, if you could, SDPN Sports. Thank you so much, Tim. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks, Adam.